How are you guys doing? It's the Brandon Cruz Daily Fantasy Podcast, where I'm going to look at loan plays and strategies specifically designed for GPPs. This is a show of people who are already informed on daily fantasy sports. All these contests operate. If you have any questions related to NASCAR that isn't a stupid question, feel free to shoot them away on Twitter at BrandonCruzDFS. Most importantly, take everything you hear with a grain of salt and use your best shot to make entries. Additionally, if you have a game addiction, that's not my problem. Check your sense feelings at the door. We're talking about the truck series at Richmond and a couple other things later towards the end of this video, but I want to try and get the picks out for you guys as quickly as possible so I'm not wasting too much of your time entering this week. What am I looking at? Who am I looking at? What am I looking like data-wise? What am I looking at? I'm mainly looking at flat tracks. You can look at the short tracks as well. Maybe even Pocono, like if you really want to be extreme, because that is a flat track, and at least it requires the same amount of concentration or at least throttle control to get through. Mainly turn 3, a little bit of the tunnel turn, but I'm not like if the tracks that I'm looking at, Pocono would be at the very last part of that. I'm not really looking at the 1.5 miles. Mainly the short track programs, mainly short track history of the drivers. I think in the truck series, if you're a late model driver and you're going to a short track or you're going to a place like Richmond, if you have a lot of history with throttle control and racing, late models or, different cars. I couldn't think of the other car I wanted to bring up. But if you've ran these types of races a lot, I'm going to use that history a little bit here, especially if you're in a new team or you haven't ran a whole lot in the truck series. That's where I'm going to use that at. But looking at the drivers who mainly lead in the short tracks or in the truck series, I want to bring up Brett Moffitt first. I think he's going to be very chalky. And if you look at his history, I mean, there's a reason why his history, it's his track history that's showing up here, going all the way back to 2019. And yes, this does count Bristol. I think when people, I'm not counting Bristol, but I think when people look at short tracks, they just kind of throw in Bristol in there anyway, even though I would say Richmond and Bristol are not very similar at all. But he has a win at Bristol in 2019. Martinsville 2019 finished 29th. Finished 10th at Phoenix in 2019. 2020's tracks. Finished second at Gateway. 4th at Richmond. 2nd at Bristol again. 28th at Martinsville. Phoenix last year finished 10th. And I think people, yet again, I don't think people are going to really pay attention and see that it's going to include Bristol in there again. Finished 24th this year at the Dirt Bristol race. I just act like that race didn't even happen. But what is this showing us? Well, he was great when he was with GMS. And if you look at his history at GMS at the big tracks, the 1.5 miles, and compare his track history and compare how he's running with this year's cars at Nice Motorsports, I mean, it is a huge step down. I didn't even bold this out. Let me get the oops. But yeah, we're seeing Brett Moffitt do really what we thought we would. He's run a different car here. He's run with a different team. This isn't the powerhouse team. However, I think people are still going to see that history and want to play Brett Moffitt because we've seen people continue to play Brett Moffitt this year, and I think they're almost expecting the GMS results. And when you see Brett Moffitt, starting 17th, $9,000, I think Brett Moffitt's going to work his way into a lot of lineups. Chalk, GPP, whatever the case is, and I don't blame that. I just think I don't know if he has that amount of upside. I know Sam Mayer is only $200 more, and he's right above him. I would much rather go to Sam Mayer. We'll talk about him once we get down the starting grid. But the whole Brett Moffitt situation is a bit sketchy in my opinion. I think if you're playing cash, yeah, sure, go there. If you want to safer play, yeah, sure, go Brett Moffitt. But I think there's guys who offer a little bit more upside, and even guys who are a bit cheaper that offer a bit more upside. I think we're going to have to cap Brett Moffitt, potential, around the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th positions. And I don't even think it's that high. I mean, I'm giving him, 8th as like a ceiling because I think that's what we've seen from these Nice Motorsports cars, specifically at Phoenix this year. Phoenix should show you how this car is going to run. At Phoenix, a track that he normally runs, somewhat well at, somewhat competitively at. And if you compare how he ran at the end of last year in the championship race, nearly won the championship until we had that late race caution, to run in Phoenix, sure, he led 78 laps, but he didn't get there. He didn't finish it off, and I think he got those laps mainly out of the track position he got from starting 4th. Now he's starting mid-pack. And this is a hard track to pass at. I mean, this is a one-groove racetrack. Anybody tell you anything different, they're crazy, man. 3 and 4, one lane on the bottom. The only way you got to get by people is having a good run off of turn 2, and I don't think Brett Moffitt's going to have that this weekend. So I'm going to cap him off at like around 8th. that's pretty much where we're going to be at there. Looking at the actual starting grid, Ben Rhodes. Let's continue. Well, let's continue looking at guys who I think are going to lead laps. Let me look at people who are going to run well. Ben Rhodes, starting in pole position. I think you can make an argument for putting Ben Rhodes in your lineups. Really this year, without qualifying and without really knowing what's going to happen, because we're all still guessing. Let me reiterate that again. We're all guessing here. I like Ben Rhodes for his price tag. I like him to easily fit in a lot of lineups. Starting on the pole position, Ben Rhodes, $8,300. I think that's a bit too cheap. There's a chance that he can run away with this race, at least up until Kyle Busch gets up there. Starting first, I don't think Austin Hill's going to really contend with him. The only guy he has to worry about is Friesen and Enfinger behind him. But if he can pull away, which we kind of saw I think last week in Martinsville was a good example of how easily a guy can pull away, not necessarily when he has the best setup, but if you can pull away on a restart, it's going to be a while before anybody catches you, especially if you're starting inside the first 2 rows. And when you look at Rhodes, his recent history, obviously 7th at Phoenix, not too bad, led 1 lap. Martinsville finished 2nd there last year in 2020, yet led 1 lap yet again, but he's up there competing. He's in the top 5 the entire race. He's showing up with competent cars. He just happens not to be the guy who's leading the laps. If you look at Richmond last year, I think this is the one people are going to look at, and it's really going to stick out. He started 2nd last year, finished 3rd, led 66 laps. I think we could see a very similar performance to him, to where I think he could lead the first stage. Maybe first stage up till, I think we're just having a competition caution this week, but I think he could lead the first stage. A little bit after that, we got some guys starting behind him that should take over the race and actually win it, but an early lap leader should be Ben Rhodes, and I think you should consider him in a lot of lineups. I know I will. And $8,300 for a dominator. If you want to make, a 3 to even a 4 dominator lineup, because with how cheap some of these guys are, I think that's the way to go. He easily fits in there. Austin Hill, I wanted to point this out that, be aware of also, we're in between off weeks. So obviously we had an off week before this race. Then I think we have 2 after this, and then they start racing again in May. And so this is the time where teams can really reset, really get sponsorships, or really repair the cars. So just be aware of that. They're not in that constant, we got to race every week. This is when they can take advantage of off time and improve their programs, improve the cars, and things of that nature there. I wanted to bring up the Austin Hill because Austin Hill's a great driver. When you think of, a dominant force in the Truck Series race, you think of Austin Hill, but you look at how he performs at short tracks, and he always falls a bit short compared to the other tier. I think this is actually probably Austin Hill's worst type of racetrack, and he's still good here. He's still good at short tracks. Going back to 2019 again, Martinsville 26th, Phoenix 13th, Gateway 3rd, Richmond 8th, Martinsville 35th, Phoenix 12th. So obviously he still has the speed. He's going to be running inside the top 10, but probably the back half of the top 10. I don't think he leads laps, and that's why I think Rhodes has such an advantage on here, because it's hard for me to picture an event where Austin Hill can pass him and really walk away with this. When you have Rhodes, Enfinger, Friesen starting behind you, Austin Hill's kind of the odd man out. And I said the same thing last week about Denny Hamlin, and I obviously whiffed on that. So it might be a situation where that happens again, although I don't really see that happening. I think that's a bit of a struggle. And him at 10-1, compare that to Rhodes on the front row at 8,300. I'm going to take Ben Rhodes. I will happily take that discount on someone who I think I can actually lead and do well in this race. Moving on over to Enfinger, I think Enfinger is still a bit underpriced. I think he should be a bit higher, 9,500. This is where I come back to that 2 to 3 to 4 dominator type of lineup. If you put Enfinger and Rhodes in here, which I think you can do, mainly because a lot of the field is kind of landlocked. They're like landlocked countries, but I guess they're more position locked to where a lot of guys are starting where they should finish, especially now that we're, almost a quarter of the way through the season. Mainly the guys starting in the back are obviously reflective of bad performances like Tyler Ankerman, guys like that. But up here, they're starting about where they should finish. So Grant Enfinger, when you look at him and how his short track racing goes, and he's also just racing for wins because NASCAR hasn't said if they're going to give him a waiver yet, because he doesn't plan on running all the races since he's kind of pushed out of ThorSport, and he doesn't know if he can get races in other trucks in those weekends that he doesn't have ThorSport with him. So Enfinger already said that he's just going for wins, and I can't think of a better guy to say, okay, I'm not caring about stage points, I'm going for wins. Bristol, 2019. I'm yet again just going 2019 forward. So Bristol, if you want to consider that, finished 5th there. Martinsville 2019 finished 4th. Phoenix 2019 finished 5th. Gateway last year finished 8th. Won this race last year. Martinsville yet again won that race, and that was a lot of things happened in that race. Obviously, he led 49 laps, but he won 2 races last year. And then at Phoenix to close the year out, started 1st, finished 13th. So obviously a bit of an up and down here, but seeing those 2 wins and hearing him say this week that he's just going for wins, I really like that. So I think Enfinger is underpriced. I think Rhodes and Enfinger I really like. I have a lot of interest in these guys here. Stuart Friesen should get ownership. People are going to look back at how he's been running, and for good reason. A lot of bad stuff happens to Friesen. He's always fast, and then he always gets wrecked on short tracks. I think I'm going to bump Friesen down a bit just because I like Enfinger and Rhodes so much. Looking back at Friesen, he ended the year the way I want to see. Other than the Martinsville race last year when he finished 6th, and the Phoenix race last year when he finished 6th, he's been all over the place. Winning some races here, finishing 10th here, getting in a wreck here. So I think Friesen should run around 7th, 6th, 5th on Saturday. Is he a priority for me? No. Is he like a tier 2 priority? No. I hate to say it, but Friesen's more of a guy that I'll play him if I end up on him, which I hate doing. I absolutely hate it when I end up on people. And Friesen at $8,100, that's gonna be a weird area to just land on him at. Like, I really have to go out of my way to get to him. Rafael Asari, I don't think he's gonna perform well. Zane Smith isn't the dominant performance, or isn't the dominator that we're used to seeing at the 1.5 miles. Obviously, I just said that I kind of like Friesen, or I can at least go in his direction, seeing how he finished off the year. Smith is really the same way. Finished Phoenix last year at 2nd, although that was a championship race, and everybody was kind of just getting out of their way, so I don't know how much you want to count there. Same thing with Martinsville. He finished 3rd there, but yet again, these are kind of championship guys at races where guys are kind of giving them room. Knee-deep in the season, like Richmond last year, he led 44 laps and finished 11th. And I don't think we're going to see a similar performance. Same thing with Gateway last year. Led 45 laps, fell back, and finished 7th. And that's when he started on pole. I think there's guys who are going to get off the truck faster than him. People like Crafton starting right behind him. I like Crafton too. We've seen Crafton be extremely fast. I mean, Crafton is really... I didn't really realize how consistent he's been over the course of his career. But when I really look back, I mean, he's always there. We've seen improvements. We've seen improvements for him, and he's always ran well at Richmond, especially last year at the flatter tracks. Obviously, a 14th at Phoenix to end the year, not so well, but 5th at Martinsville, 2nd at Richmond last year, 14th at Gateway. I'm just kind of rounding off results here. I think we're going to see Crafton run inside the top 5 in this truck race, and yet again at his price. I mean, this is why I like the idea of trying to make a 4-dominator lineup, because a lot of these guys are in 8K. A lot of these guys are low 9Ks. Especially even if you're paying up for Kyle Busch, you can still afford a lot of these guys. Todd Gillen, look, he had one great race at Gateway, and last year, following that race, I was like, okay, I'm going to play him. I'm going to really look at him at all these flat tracks, all the short tracks. Never really showed up. It was just that one good Gateway race where he ended up getting wrecked by Sheldon Creed, and I think we have that in our minds too much. Like, oh, Todd Gillen's a good racer. He struggles more in the dirty air at the 1.5 miles. That's why he's not as good there. So really what we're doing is making excuses for Todd Gillen. We're trying to find excuses for him, basically, and I think we got to stop doing that. I mean, Todd Gillen, he isn't that, short track ringer that we think he is, or at least guy who's going to perform better at the flat tracks. He's still just Todd Gillen, no matter where it is. Finished 9th at Phoenix last year. Obviously won Martinsville in 2019, but other than that, what did he really do? Has he led laps outside of Gateway? No. Even in that Martinsville race, he won it late in the race, and remember, that's the one that Fox Sports stopped airing. What's up with Fox Sports and having issues at Martinsville? Interesting. Maybe I think I'm going to bump Todd down a little bit, actually. And I do this more for you guys to have a visual of how I view people and how I want to look at you guys. So I try and update that as I go through this video. Oh man, this is gonna be long. This is gonna be a long episode. We're already 14 minutes. I'm so sorry. I love Sheldon Creed. I think Sheldon Creed and Kyle Busch are probably my favorites to win this race, and probably my favorite DFS plays. And I think Sheldon Creed is underpriced here as well. Like if you wanted to stack Creed and Kyle Busch, that leaves you $5,700. There's guys in the 4K that I think can, at least show up in terms of DFS to where, stacking Kyle Busch and Creed isn't crazy. Or just using one of the 10K guys, which the only 10K guys I want to play are Kyle Busch and Sheldon Creed. So using one of those and then going down to someone like Ben Rhodes, somebody like Matt Crafton, that's how I say, hey, we can get a 3 to 4 dominator lineup. I don't really want to focus on place differential. I think we're going to have, it's a good chance 2 guys kind of walk away with this race, maybe 3. The reason I'm aiming for 4 is if I'm aiming for 4, it's a good chance those guys finish in the top 5. And that's mainly what I'm looking for. But I love Sheldon Creed. I can't really say that enough. I like him a lot. Austin Wayne Self, not really. I spelled Enfinger's name wrong. Tanner Gray, yet again, not really, man. He's more of a top 15 driver across the board, and his price is going to be quite difficult to get to. If you're building lineups like I am, I haven't ended up on Tanner Gray a lot at $6,900 because in the 6K range, there's guys who are cheaper that I think can outscore Tanner Gray with place differential play or with place differential spots alone. Not even necessarily having a good race, just passing enough guys to where they're either even with Tanner Gray, and my projections are slightly above him. So if you want to see those, BrandonCruzDFS on Patreon. Thank you guys for supporting me, by the way. I do appreciate everybody who has donated to me this year, who has subscribed, watched the show. I really do appreciate that. Really, really do. Hocevar, I think Hocevar wrecks here. I really do. That's just how it is, man. I think projected finish, projected ceiling, that kind of shows where I'm on these guys. Haley Deegan, I think she kind of struggles here. However, we have seen her run well at the short tracks in, obviously it's ARCA, so, out of 12 cars, oh wow, she's running 4th. I'm hesitant to play her starting 14th. She really has to go up. I think she'll have a good real-life day, finish around where she starts, if everything goes well. But if she loses any positions, I think she's a bad play on DraftKings if that's the case, especially for her price at, just lost the $6,500. At her price, $6,500 starting 14th, you actually need her, hold on to 14th, get up to 13th, somewhere around there. And, that's why I'm not really interested in her. Purdy, Truex, I haven't seen him pop off my projections yet. If I build differently, maybe. I'm just concerned on where they both finish. I think they're very similar drivers, very similar plays. I'm sure you'll just play one or the other based on salary. Purdy's at $6,700, Truex is at $7,500, so maybe just end up on Purdy more. But, playing guys basically starting 15th and 16th that should finish, 18th and 19th. I don't know if that's the best play there. Brett Moffitt, I already talked about him. John Hunter Nemechek, probably easily my third favorite to win the race and perform well. Probably my 4th. Where is he at right now? I got John Hunter Nemechek as I have him as my 4th highest projected DraftKings points. However, 11.5. Bit strong. I don't think there's going to be 3 10K guys at work. I don't think there's going to be 2. I think there's only going to be 1 in the optimal lineup, or 1 10K guy. And I'm gonna say this: people forget that you can score well. You can have good scoring lineups that are optimal. Look at the contest, everyone. Usually 20% of each contest gets paid out. So, okay, you don't have the best lineup in that contest, or you might still have a top 3% lineup. You might still have a top 5, top 7% lineup. And so when I say, hey, I don't think the optimal is going to have, 2 10K guys, I think 2 10K guys in a lineup will score well. Between John Hunter Nemechek, Creed, and Kyle, I think 2 of those guys can score very well. And if I was playing cash, I'd probably put 2 of those guys in the lineup. John Hunter Nemechek is probably my third favorite guy in the 10K range, 4th highest projected guy in general for this slate. Johnny Sauter, I'm back and forth here. I'm gonna put him as a B. mainly due to his price. $7,700 for a guy who can show up and who can, actually be competent and get in the top 5. I don't mind that at all. I originally had him as a C just because I've always been hesitant with Johnny Sauter this year, but top 5 upside, should get in the top 10 if everything is all right. That's how it should be. Cody finished 6th at Richmond. I think that should boost his ownership. Like, everyone's going to look at Cody and be like, oh my God, the guy finished 6th here, where that was a strange finish. What a strange race. Starting 20th for $6,000, a bit expensive. I would honestly rather go to Corey Roper, a guy who has nothing but short track experience. I know he wrecks a lot. Everybody wrecks a lot here. And I don't think people are going to play Roper. I don't mind Chris Wright, Chandler Smith. These are guys who I think they're safe plays. Chris Wright, it's going to be easier to get to just because he's cheaper. But I think they can score well. That's why I have them as Bs and As, because these guys are... Smith is inside my top 10, and Chris Wright is inside my top 16. Actually, he's 16th right now. But still, 16th highest scoring driver. I got to adjust things. He should be higher than that. I think I'm giving some other guys too many place differential points. I originally had Chris Wright as a top 15 DFS play, or at least in terms of projections, but I don't mind them at all. Fogelman, I don't know. I mean, all these guys, Fogelman, Davis, Boyd, Peters, Bone, this whole group of about 5 drivers, if I assume they're going to make it in the lineups, not because I just want to play them, but I got to differentiate my lineups. I got to get on different guys just in case stuff happens. I'd like Spencer Davis more out of these 5 guys than anybody, but even with that said, play him with a bit of caution. Derek Kraus, Cash, go right ahead. I feel like you're really paying up for Kraus. However, he's $8,500 yet again. If you want to build, maybe let me change that. If you want to build with 3 to 4, 8, 9, 10K guys, Kraus should be in a lot of lineups. I think Kraus would actually be very chalky, and I think he's a far better play than Tyler Ankrum. You're paying a premium for the Tyler Ankrum place differential. I hate when I do that. That Tyler Ankrum price is ridiculous. That's crazy. I'm not doing that. I mean, his recent track history might push it that way, but like, come on, man. You're paying an absolute premium for Tyler Ankrum. Let's just go through his last few flat short track finishes: 25th, 26th, 12th, 5th, 12th, and 8th. Look, you're paying for the place differential. He's not going to lead laps. He's not going to get fast laps. And he's not going to win the race. Why am I paying that much for Tyler Ankrum? I'm not going to do it. Dawson Cram, I have him as a C. I'm actually going to move him up because I'm going to end up with a lot of Dawson Cram here. And that's just how the projections are going right now. That's what the optimizer is liking. That's what, I don't think I'm being crazy with Dawson Cram. As I said before, when I kind of midway through this, this is between off weeks. So somebody like Dawson Cram, this team, somebody like Timmy Hill, that team are people who should have taken the off time here and improved the program, improved the truck. And with that, I like Dawson Cram here. I don't mind him at all. I don't know how popular he's going to be, but I like him. The whole Keith McGee, I'm going to kind of group these guys together. Keith McGee, Howie, Nolan, Rayum, Cicerelli. It's whoever you end up on in the value range. All these guys are really cheap. I mean, Keith McGee at $4,500. Gosh, man, I need to move him up too because he's so cheap. He doesn't have to do much. Certainly, it would be good if he could get a top 30, but if you're building a certain lineup, certainly like a Creed and a Kyle Busch lineup, or you just kind of need the salary relief, I don't mind him. He's certainly better than Cobb and Benning in that. Chris Wright, $4,800. That's kind of why I'm so high on Chris Wright. I guess I totally forgot to mention this price there. I think Chris Wright's actually going to be very popular as well. And I'll zoom back up so we can kind of look at the quote. I'm going to leave it. Screw it. So we can kind of look at the chalkier plays once we get through this. But yeah, like all these plays here are just kind of ugly. I know they're going to get in the lineups. I have no real lean one way or the other. Maybe Howie Moore in the Jordan Anderson truck. I can at least trust that vehicle to not break down. Now, I cannot trust Howie to not destroy it, but at $5,200, I don't mind Howie there. Yeah, that's just kind of how it is. Timmy Hill, great play. Should have a top 18 finish. I'm giving him 16th as my projected ceiling. If things go crazy, or if we have a late race yellow, we've seen Timmy Hill take advantage of that in the Truck Series. Especially, I mean, Timmy Hill certainly over Tyler. He's really taking advantage over this, over late race cautions, and can get this into a top 10 vehicle. Yet again, Timmy Hill, Dawson Cram, even a bit of Howie with the Jordan Anderson group. Those are the guys who I would imagine could take the off week or the off time between this race, and then especially following this race, these are the teams that I really expect to come back with better parts and stuff. So I like Timmy Hill a lot. I like Dawson Cram. I don't mind Howie. Sam Mayer. Sam Mayer has said that he would not run this car if it was junk equipment. It's the same. It's the Brett Holmes vehicle, which I've been high on, and thank God it's had horrible finishes, because I think it's burned enough people to where guys don't want to play it. And Sam in this car, I think he's very similar to Brett Holmes. I really do. I know Sam has a win, but man, I like Sam Mayer here. He'll probably be my highest owned driver. I think I'm going to work Sam into a lot of lineups, and his price, I mean, $9,200, that's too cheap. I really do think that is far too cheap. Starting DFL should easily get 25 place differential points. Easy. He could contend for a top 10. If I'm paying for place differential at any spot, should be Sam Mayer. That's just how it is. I think Sam does extremely well. I mean, Sam's great at short tracks anyway. So that's how it would be. Let me scroll through. Let me zoom. I don't know if you'll see it. So Brett Moffitt, I think, is going to be popular. Chris Wright is going to be popular based on his price. Although I don't know if people are risky enough to want to play him at 22nd. I think I'm going to have a lot of Chris Wright. Right now, the optimizer's liking him. Same thing with Dawson Cram, but I don't know if that's reflective on other people. I haven't listened to anything this week yet. Derek Kraus, I think he's going to be popular in terms of place differential plays. And if you're looking at Kraus and Sam Mayer, Kraus is cheaper, $8,500. And I think these guys should be. I think Sam should be a bit higher than 9,200. I think he should be more like 95, 97, really. Because we saw Parker Kligerman last year at almost $10,000 week in and week out, starting in the back of the field. And I think this is a very similar play. And if you told me I had Parker Kligerman starting dead last at $9,500, that's going to easily get into a lot of or $9,200, that's going to get into a lot of lineups. And Sam, I don't know how many people are going to play Kraus and Sam together. I think Kraus is going to come up in more lineups because he's cheaper. Sam might be a direct pivot off of Kraus. I don't know. That's just kind of me thinking out loud. That's kind of where I'm at there. And what are we at here? So thank you guys for watching. We're 28 minutes in. I'm going to talk a little bit here. If you don't want to listen, I completely understand. So let me start talking about the live show a bit. Pierce is wanting to take a bit of a step back, and I don't blame him. This isn't talking about Pierce, but this is talking in general for content creators, especially for NASCAR. April is the first wall, or the real wall, to where anybody who continues at this point actually cares about the content. And I'm not saying that to Pierce. I'm saying that in general. Like when the season started this year, I saw a lot of YouTubers and content creators on YouTube making DraftKings related content for this, for the trucks, for the Xfinity, for the Cup Series. And week by week, those numbers slowly dwindle of the guys who are making content for this, because this is a lot of work. I don't think people certainly don't realize it until they get in here of how much work the NASCAR stuff is. And this isn't a pity party for me or anybody else. I'm just explaining. And when you get into April, you hit that wall of, the NBA starting, it's certainly on the downward swing of the season. MLB is here. Football talk, I don't know why in April, but football is, that always starts to come back up, and people start offering good prices on their NFL packages and things of that nature. And you have so much stuff week in and week out. This isn't like in February where Super Bowl ends. You don't really have anything other than the NBA. Now you have NBA every single day, pretty much. Baseball every single day, pretty much. The NHL every single day. You're getting soccer coming back, or my bad, soccer's already been here. CSGO, League of Legends, a lot of things going on. So NASCAR isn't the dominant DFS sport, And outside of that, the contests are getting smaller, which happens each year, towards April, and they keep getting smaller and smaller, and they'll certainly keep getting smaller with all the overlay we've had recently. I can't believe it. Can't believe the overlay we've seen recently in the Cup Series, much less these smaller series here. So that's another reason why, this is a lot of work. A lot of the guys that are still here, towards April and certainly going through the year, it's a lot of work. So hats off. You got to think whoever you watch, whether it's me, Pierce, Nate Lane, anybody else who covers a smaller series and the bigger series, man, you got to say thank you at some point to, for covering that. I know we appreciate it. Going back to the live show, I don't know if I'm gonna do it, because at least this week. I might try it this week solo, but it feels weird. I really enjoy doing it with Pierce. We have good chemistry. We've gotten so much great feedback. It feels weird gonna do it by myself. So I think I'll try it this week, see what the feedback is, see how I feel about it. I certainly won't go an hour and a half like we have been the last couple of weeks, just because people like hearing us talk. I don't know if I can do that for an hour and a half by myself without getting annoyed by saying the same plays that I like for an hour. But I'm going to try that out. So let me know what you guys think in terms of the live shows. If you want to keep them going with me, if you want me to wait till Pierce wants to come back, if he wants to come back, if not, we'll figure something out there. And yes, I've gotten PMs about his stuff as well. Look, the sheets are coming this week. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about not having access to them or anything. I'm not worried about it, so I don't think you should really worry about it. As soon as that gets updated on his side, once he gets that, that's easily the best sheet to read. It's still my best tool that I use. So help him out. Send some love his way. Let's see what else. I can't really. Oh yes, the Cup Series video. The Cup Series video is going to be audio only this week. I'm probably gonna do that tomorrow, and that's just because I got a lot of stuff going on. And like I said, what's on the screen is more of a like a visual representation for the context of my video. So I'll probably start doing a bit more audio only videos. Unless you guys love this, let me know. If you guys love what I'm doing here, I'll keep doing it. But yeah, just giving you a little bit of an update right there. I certainly know where other content creators are coming from, because April is always like the first wall of, oh man, we're like a quarter of the way through. It's tiring, but not tiring. Hopefully I'm making sense. I'm not trying to complain. I think I'm going on too long. Nobody really cares about this anyway. So thank you guys for watching. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you. Check out my Patreon if you want to support me with any type of money, or do it on PayPal if you want to send me a tip there. If not, I completely understand. Thank you guys for watching, and best of luck this week, and thank you for listening to this point. If you are, I doubt anybody is. Let me know if you listened up to here as well in the comments. You guys have a good day.